On this edition of Locked on Astros, we're going to talk about the Astros dropping a tough one at home against the White Sox 4-2. Even though they out-hit Chicago and have been strong offensively at home, they couldn't find a way to bring the runs across the plate. Let's get into it right now.
Jainel Diaz, this is Locked on Astros.
Hello and welcome to Locked on Astros, your daily Astros podcast. Here are your hosts, Eric the Man Huysman and Brett Htown Wheelhouse Chancey.
Hey everybody, and welcome into this edition of Locked on Astros. You know me, I'm Htown Wheelhouse, and I am here with Locked on Astros every single night. Usually my co-host is none other than Eric the Man Huysman, but tonight we got Trevor, the Buffalo kid, the Astros super fan extraordinaire. Trevor, tell everybody where they can find you tonight on the socials.
Yeah, Brett, of course. Thanks for having me. You guys can find me on X or Twitter, whatever you guys like to call it, at Trev Hauer. I'm kind of like Brett here. Like, I'm always positive. I'm trying to be always Stros a lot, especially when we go 2-1 against the Tigers, 2-1 against the Mets, and 1-3 against the White Sox this year. But we'll try to stay positive during this show, though, Brett.
No, yeah, definitely, because we know there's plenty to gripe about tonight. You know, 2025 has been kind of a crazy season. And look, if things are crazy with you and your finances, that's okay, because Monarch Money is here to help you. This episode is brought to you by them. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Now, Eric and I usually talk about it at the top of the show, how him and I basically between us have 16 years experience podcasting. I know you are starting out fresh on the radio. You've got a couple years under your belt behind the mic. And so, and I noticed you had the opportunity to make it to Cleveland because you're only 3 hours away from there. So you got to see the Astros in person, which is not common for you being as far up north. Let's get right into it, Trev. Lance McCullers Jr. tonight has really been one of the brighter spots this year, coming back, beating the odds, doubling down against the haters. I mean, having to deal with people, degenerate gamblers making stupid threats and things like that. But tonight, despite anything that he's done or worked towards, tonight he just had a rough night on the mound.
Yeah, it was tough. I mean, I think he's still trying to work some of the kinks out. I mean, keep in mind, he didn't pitch at all last year or the year before. He's going to have the nights where he's good. He's going to have the nights where he's not so good. Tonight was just one of those nights where he wasn't that good. I know that he wants to be probably the third man in this rotation. Consistency is what we are asking for. The 5 walks really kind of turned us off as fans there with that. But I mean, you look at his previous performance, he looked great. And then you look at this one, and then you look at maybe the Reds game, and yeah, not so good. He's still knocking some rust off. I mean, he was out for a long time. It's still early. He only plays once a week or so. He's not like some of these other guys that play every single day and still continue to struggle at the plate. I mean, we can talk about those a little bit later, but Lance, I mean, it just wasn't that. Not really his best stuff, not really his best night, but
yeah, exactly.
No, and that only gave up 4 runs against the White Sox. You would think maybe this offense could, because we all know, and you talk about it at nauseum, Brett, when this team scores 4 runs, they tend to win a lot of those games. I feel like the White Sox at the level that they're at going into this game, 22 games under 500. Yeah, you feel like you should be able to score 4+ runs against those guys, but we didn't get that tonight.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, his stat line goes by the way of 5 innings pitched, 4 hits, 4 earned runs, 4 walks, 6 strikeouts, 96 pitches, 51 of them were strikes, 28 swings, only 9 whiffs. Average exit velocity was 93.7. His ERA after 7 starts is 4.91, which, look, for Lance McCullers, I mean, that's fine. It's not 6, it's not 7, and I think he's helped you more than he's hurt you out there on the mound. But it really, this game wasn't just about the walks that Lance McCullers gave up, but it was the 8 walks that the Astros pitchers gave up. And you and I were talking before the broadcast here when we were doing the playback live that whenever this offense does not perform, there's that. Well, I guess when any offense doesn't perform, the pressure goes to the pitchers. And even though you have a team that's 22 games under 500, they're still major league players, and they're still going to take opportunity. And why we aren't walking Luis Robert Jr. in the first 2 at bats, I do not know. It baffles me how good Luis Robert Jr. is, and I'm about to pull his numbers up here.
Yeah, they're insane video game numbers that Brett's going to pull up right here.
I grabbed them off of StatMuse, and I mean, it is just, it's like when you look at it, and it's not a massive sample size, 20 games versus the Astros overall, 368, 28 hits, 7 homers, 17 RBI, 15 runs scored. And he's done that in 20 games. I mean, look, was it Dubin who mowed him down on 3 pitches? That was nice. But
yeah, Sean Dubin. Yep.
But, he did damage on you early. The ball that he got was middle from Lance McCullers. And so that just isn't going to cut it. So it wasn't just Lance tonight walking the hitters. It was the bullpen. And typically the starters in the bullpen has been sharp. That has been the Astros calling card when they've been successful.
Yeah, they must have had Pantera's song Walk blasting in the bullpen tonight. That was just kind of what it was. And it wasn't even just that. I mean, you look at some of the scouting reports, and I was telling you this during our stream during the game. It was, teams in the 90s would intentionally walk Barry Bonds with the bases loaded. We're throwing 83 down the middle to Luis Robert, and you saw those numbers that he has against the Astros. I can't wrap my brain around the fact that we're still pitching to this guy. He tears you up in April. He's still tearing you up in June. Things don't change with that guy. He is an Astros killer. He is an Albert Pujols. He is an Akil Baddoo. He is who's the laundry list of Astro killers? Byron Buxton always has career nights against the Astros.
If your last name is Seager,
yeah, Kyle Corey, yep.
You could be Clementine Seager in 2050 and still be killing the Astros. I mean,
good Lord. It is just, that you look at that and I'm like, I see Luis Roberts leading off this inning. Don't throw middle, right down the middle, hits it. And I know the stat was it's only out in 4 out of the 30 ballparks, but that's supposed to benefit you. You're supposed to hit those home runs where not a lot of those teams are supposed to hit. You're supposed to use that to your advantage. And quite frankly, Brett, the Astros offense tonight didn't do them any real favors either. They grounded out into 2 more double plays and they had runs scored. They had 9 hits and 3 double plays grounded into. And I think one of them was Jake Myers. One of them was Cam Smith. That was just an unlucky bounce there off the mound. Maybe the other one was Victor Caratini. I don't know, but it was just one of those nights where you kept trying. They had the bases loaded, nobody outs.
Oh man, you had opportunities.
It was just one of those nights where it didn't matter what you were doing up there at the plate, what you were doing up there at the mound. It just wasn't bouncing your way.
Well, here's the thing, because tip your cap to Smith. He has been probably one of their best pitchers this year.
You won't find a bigger Cam Smith fan than me over here. I am the aircraft carrier Stan.
Oh no. I'm not talking about Cam Smith. I'm talking about the White Sox pitcher.
Oh, Smith. Yeah.
Smith. Sorry about that. No, yeah, Smith. He went 6 innings, 7 hits, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts. It wasn't like he was a world. It wasn't like he was a world beater, but he went out and did the job. So he is a solid guy. The Astros just did not take advantage when you started to see a crack in the bottom of the boat for the White Sox, which could have sunk them in their effort to beat the Astros. Like you said, are now 1-3 versus the White Sox. We've seen bad teams in the past, that just have your number.
2021 Tigers, 2021 Orioles, 2022 A's.
Yes.
They always had the Astros number. I also want to go back to the first inning, or maybe the second inning. Yainer Diaz smokes one in the same spot that he hit during the Rays walk-off, and it ended up being a catch at the warning track. That would have put the Astros up 2-0 early in this game. But like I mentioned before, it didn't matter what they were doing up there at the plate, what they were doing on the mound. The ball just simply was not bouncing their way. It was just one of those games, 1 out of 162. It's just so frustrating, gets so annoying that it's against a team that's coming into your house 22 games under 500 and have a 3-1 record against you guys.
Yeah, exactly. And you want to hope to build momentum. Now, maybe the solace in all this is that the Mariners are losing to the Diamondbacks. But when we come back, we want to talk about the offense, because at home, the offense has been a lot better. You have been winning games at home, and we want to get to that 4 runs scored or more stat here in a second. We'll talk about that next segment. Thank you all for tuning in to Locked On Astros. I'm Htown Wheelhouse, and I want to tell you about supplyhouse.com for all your plumbing, HVAC, and electrical product needs. Use the code SH5 for 5% off your first order. Look, being the son of a master electrician my entire life, I know what it's like to not get good customer service. I've seen parts that were ordered that have not come into the job, and that is simply not going to happen with Supply House. Why? Because you can order from coast to coast and have your parts delivered. They have an inventory of over 200,000 parts with 400 plus brands, and they offer expert support, industry leading service. So you'll always talk to a real person. No bots, no press this, no press that. And for trade pros looking for the extra edge, they're free. That's right, I said free. Trademaster program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts for every order. So thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the Trademaster program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. So use the promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Again, we thank y'all for tuning in. Thank you, Trev, for stepping in for Eric. Eric the Man Huysman will be back tomorrow. Talked to him before we went on the air. He's doing okay. Nothing's wrong. He just got the best of him today. And, man, there's a lot of stuff going on in Houston. The Texans reported to their first mandatory mini camp, and everybody was relieved. The sky's not falling. CJ Stroud does have an arm that can throw a football. We have an offense that can play, and although they're not consistent, they are consistent with one thing. When they score 4 runs or more, they win 80% of their games. When they score 3 runs or less, their now record is with 3 runs or less. I'm looking here. So right now they are 12-25 when scoring 3 runs or less. So you have played over half of your games or you scored less than 4 runs. That's a trend that has to change. You understand that every offense isn't going to do something every game unless you're like the Yankees. Like the Yankees have the highest team OPS. So, there are teams that are just going to be hitting the ball out of the ballpark. But with Christian Walker still not hitting, with, us going after first pitch strikes every time we're at the plate, something's got to change for a consistency level, and having guys like Jordan out of the mix, because Chandler Rome reported today before the game that none of Jordan, Chaz, or Zach DeCenzo are swinging a bat yet. So you're not getting those guys back.
Very close. Very, very close to swinging a bat or picking up a bat, I think.
Yeah, it was picking up a bat is what he said, what Dana Brown said. But I'm like, what are we doing here? Like,
I could pick up a bat.
Can't even pick up bats?
I don't know. It's beyond my comprehension. But I guess someone in the chat just mentioned Astros legend right now is actually pitching for the Arizona Diamondbacks against the Mariners. Taylor Scott. How about that? Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, that's crazy.
But I will say this about the whole thing with the 4-run offense. If you don't score 4 runs in a game, you turn into the 2024 Astros. Do we want to see that? Do we want to see the April 2024 Astros again, who had the worst start in franchise history in the modern era? It shouldn't really be a tough ask. You have 2 runs on the, or what was it? 1 run on the board, bases loaded, nobody out in the bottom of the 8th, the prime position to at least get into good position to tie the game, maybe take the lead. God forbid this team hits a grand slam once every 2 years or more times than that. Yainer Diaz, and you kind of touched on it earlier, Brett. First pitch swinging with the bases loaded, like at a pitch that was near chin level.
Yeah,
you got to be more patient. You never know what could happen when that pitch is at your chin level. Who knows? The catcher has to reach up his arm. Maybe he's not catching it. Maybe a run scores on a wild pitch, and then you have runners at second and third with Yainer at the plate, and then we can talk about a base hit, a single can tie the game at 4. Being more patient at the plate is something that needs to be done with this team. And depending on who you talk to, some of the fans will blame the hitting coaches for plate discipline, which I think is completely horrible. You're not watching it if you think that way. I compare it to this, Brett. When I used to bow hunt a lot during deer season.
Okay.
And to bow hunt, I think JP France, shout out him. He knows a lot about this stuff.
You're right.
When you're practicing, you have to practice a lot when you're bow hunting. When you're aiming at that target, when you're right on where you want to shoot, you automatically want to shoot. Pull that trigger as hard as you possibly can because you're right on. Take a couple of deep breaths. Don't get that trigger finger. That's a bad habit to get into. And I think that is exactly what the Astros have. They have the ball, they have the bat on the target, and they're swinging right away instead of just taking a couple of deep breaths, waiting for the pitch, and just absolutely unloading on something down the middle. The pitch that should have been crushed with runners at the corners in the bottom of the 8th inning with 1 out in a 4-2 game was Christian Walker. Off speed, 83 down the middle. That ball should have been absolutely pummeled into Albert Pujols territory. That ball should have been orbiting Jupiter, Saturn by now. 83 down the middle against the White Sox. And I was telling you this during the broadcast, Brett, they were asking for the Astros to take the lead with that pitch.
Yeah.
And Christian
yeah.
Walker,
I mean, it's almost, usually you're the people that like kicks the door open. I mean, they kind of nudge the door open with their foot and they're like, here's your chance. I mean, Smith left the game. The bullpen came in. You got the 1 run, but it's like someone said here, Christian Walker hits the ball 105 miles an hour off the bat and it goes straight to somebody. And I mean, someone's saying we need to sacrifice some chickens or something at first base. Everybody keeps calling it the curse of Yuli Gurriel, the curse of La Pina at first. But I don't know what it is because I even talked to Mike Stanton about this last night on Back to the Bullpen. And I said, what do? I'm like, do you move the guy to 7th? And he's like, no, you're paying him to hit 4th. You're paying him to hit home runs. He's going to have to hit his way out of it. That's just the ugly truth. And, Jeremy Pena and Jake Myers can't have career nights every night. But Isaac Paredes missed an opportunity. He didn't have to hit a grand slam, but we know he can. Yep. We see pop-ups, we see chases. You watch that second strike go down the middle, then the third pitch that you swing at, like Altuve did one at bat, ball's just tailing way out of the dirt, and it's like we're just trying to golf something, or not. I'm not out on the field, but scoring 4 runs or more is the calling card for this team. So I know Dana Brown talks about pitching, and I think we're going to get Arrighetti back, and I think when Javier comes back, he'll contribute. And hopefully Luis Garcia, we don't know what they'll be like. We still have Colton Gordon, who's underutilized. We have Brandon Walter. We have Miguel Uola, if he can just reduce his walks.
Yep.
We've got pitching. I think we need to get a bat. But the question is, where do we put that bat? And what I want to do is I want to talk about just maybe the White Sox having our number going forward, the next 2 pitching matchups, and how you see things lining up when we come back. All right. Everybody, thank you all for tuning in to Locked On Astros. I'm Htown Wheelhouse. I want to talk to you about Monarch Money. Monarch Money is like having your own personal CFO right there in your back pocket. And right now, if you use the code LOCKEDONMLB, you'll get 50% off your first year. I mean, we know that you go out and spend the money. We know that you get Amazon packages. You go to Astros games. You get tickets to various events. And sometimes you look at your bank account and you're like, how did all that money get out of my account? Then you're like, man, I really wish I had some way to organize it. Well, that's where Monarch Money comes in. It is not just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. So stop just managing your money and start building wealth. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared accounts, personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. I mean, your pocketbook and your bank account might be minuscule and anemic like the Astros offense, but with Monarch Money, you don't have to worry about that because you can build it into an absolute juggernaut. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com using the code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. Do that today. All right, Trev. So we go into the last segment. Thank you for joining us. It always seems when you join us, this thing goes by so freaking fast. But I think, they always say, time is,
time flies when you're having fun.
Time flies when you're having fun. There you go. How did I forget that phrase? It has been a long day for me, my friend.
Me too, man.
But, if the White Sox have our number this year, we're not going to see them in the playoffs. So it's not that.
Thank
it's
the
not
Lord.
that. It still is June 10th, and right now you're, the only team chasing you in the Mariners is losing, and they're going through a cold spell. The one thing that you can look forward to and you hope isn't a trend is how they do against bad teams. Because they're lined up to have the simplest, most easy path forward for the rest of the season in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, but we're also talking about the second half Astros. We're talking post All-Star game Astros.
True.
That's when they usually turn it on. They usually have their good months. June is particularly a good month for them in their history. July too. August they kind of hit a little bit of a slump, but then they surge in September. So I mean, this team just has so much experience. This core, I mean, I know that we lost a lot of key pieces, Kyle Tucker, Alex Bregman, but there's a lot of players on this team that have been into deep postseason runs on their own respective teams. But division titles is not, at what this fan base is really looking for. You're 3 games ahead in the division. It's a bad division. The team that's in second is a game above 500 right now. We're not chasing down division titles. What
Right.
the Astros need to do is they need to go on a convincing run, go on a sizable winning streak, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 game win streak.
Yes.
Show the American League that you guys can still dominate because congrats, you're the best team in a bad division. Cool.
Right.
The Astros were also the best team in a bad division last year. They didn't get very far. So what they got to do this year, go on a sizable lead. You're only, I think as of right now, 4.5, maybe 5.5 games back of the Yankees right now. If you go on a sizable run, you can catch those guys for second place in the American League.
Right.
This team is capable. This team does play well at home. It's just playing down to bad teams. Tonight was just tough. I mean, we can talk about luck. We can talk about walks. Everything that they were doing, that they were trying to do the right way, it just wasn't bouncing the right way. 9 times out of 10, when Cam Smith hits that ball up the middle and it bounces off the pitcher's mound, what are the odds that it goes right into the second baseman's glove and he steps on it and throws it over to first base? I mean, it is just 1 out of 162, but I do agree. Again, you got these easier teams coming up, but you're also looking at the post All-Star break Astros coming up in about a month and a half to 2 months. So we'll have to see. That's usually when the Astros surge. It really doesn't matter who the team is that they're facing against. That's when they usually go on their run. And, law of averages, right? How many times do the Astros win the division over the last decade? 8 times.
Yeah.
I think that they're going to win the division. I'm beyond the point. We are past the drought of missing the playoffs, of losing 111 games this year. We're beyond the Brett Wallace, Jordan Schaefer days. Those days are long behind us. Winning the division should feel like step one, should feel like tier one. You want to go deep into the playoffs.
Yeah.
You know that this team could go to the
Well,
ALCS.
so-
You know this team could go to the World Series.
And so that I think is where, you have to figure out something. And of course, I think June, like, you don't want to say you have to get hot in June and take that into September. I'm just saying you got to get hot at the right time. I mean, I probably use this example too much, but it is the experience of the Astros fan, and they relate to it. In 19 and 21, the Braves and the Nationals.
Yep.
What do they do? And it was the Braves actually barely got into the playoffs. And then I remember doing the Locked On Braves, Locked On Astros World Series crossover preview. And even Jake Mastriani over at Locked On Braves had the Astros winning in 5. I mean, so
yeah, Ronald Acuna Jr. tore his ACL right before the All-Star break.
Yeah, and so it was just like, it still is a long season. You haven't even hit the dog days of summer yet. But like you said, to solidify their place, it would be nice to see them go on a 6 to 8 to 9 game run where they win 6, 7, 8, 9 games in a row. I mean, heck, Mattress Mac has the promotion. If the Astros win 10 games in a row, you get a free mattress. It's like, okay. Like,
don't you want a free mattress?
Do what now?
Don't you want a free mattress? Don't the Astros players want a free mattress?
But, this year, I don't know. I think that's a riskier, almost just as risky bet as putting them in the World Series right now. And so the Astros, they have to concentrate on getting healthy. They have to concentrate on figuring out what it is they need to do in their game plan to get more hits. And that is important because to sustain yourself in the playoffs, we see what happens. The Detroit Tigers had no business beating anybody in last year's playoffs with one pitcher. But in a short series, that opportunity befalls on anybody, and you still have to play the games, and you still have to, it's like nobody gets to the series and goes, oh man, they're gonna beat us, right? But these next 2 games, we have Ryan Gusto, say some prayers. And then we have Framber Valdez. Framber Valdez has been one of the better pitchers in the AL this year. You hope to get 2 out of 3 to get that bad White Sox taste out of your mouth. And maybe we can suggest at work tomorrow, if you go to work and if you wear socks, hopefully you wear socks when you go to work, unless you are allowed to wear flip-flops. How about nobody wear White Sox tomorrow? Let's ban the White Sox. Nobody wears White Sox tomorrow for any reason. How's that?
Yeah, I can definitely get behind that. If you guys got like electric, like hot pink socks, wear those. Don't even wear socks that even match. Don't even have white in any of your apparel whatsoever.
There you go.
Go up to work wearing the funeral attire. Go black on black. Don't even throw white socks into any of your arsenal. Seriously, do that. Because wasn't it last year, though, Brett, the loss that really kickstarted the Astros turnaround? Wasn't that against the White Sox where they went down 10 games in the division in the middle of June?
I think
maybe
so.
This is that type of kickstart where, hey, maybe you lose this game. You got 9 hits. You bounce into just horrible luck. You hit into horrible luck. You're walking everybody, whatever. Just wasn't your night, point blank.
Right.
You got to rebound tomorrow. Maybe just try to get the series. Try to win one with gusto. I think you're going to win the getaway rubber match with Framber Valdez. I think that I already chalked that in the book as a W. And
there you go.
Just make sure that you win tomorrow. Take the series. What you're looking for right now is I know that Christian Walker can't hit a lick right now. And I know a lot of it is unlucky. A lot of it is strikeouts, whatever. Despite not having Tucker on this team, despite not having Bregman on this team, the number one priority has to be winning streaks. If you can go on a sizable winning streak, you'll get all my confidence back that you can at least make a push to the ALCS this year.
So what if I compromise with you, Trevor, and I said, okay, I don't want a 10-game winning streak, but I want a 6-game series winning streak. Like, I want to win 6 series in a row. Would you be okay with that? Or you think for you're wanting to see the 6, 7, 8 games in a row?
No, I could honestly get behind that too. It really just depends on where you're going to have these streaks. I can win 6 series in a row in June. I would love to go on a long winning streak August, September, going into the playoffs, get hot during that time. Because I think the Astros went on a 7-game win streak last year, even during that awful run where they started off, 12-24, 33-40, whatever that was last year. They had a sizable winning streak then and didn't do much favor for them going into the playoffs last year. But if you can start off just taking series after series after series, that's showing me the gradual approach with this team. You guys can string these wins along. Can we get them in a row is the thing that we need to work on. And I think if you guys can set goals for yourself, I know Frank Reich, when he was a head coach in the NFL, always talked about climbing the metaphorical mountain. Can we tackle this part first, where you're consistently winning series? Don't drop series against these lesser teams, maybe against teams that are 22 games under 500. Why don't we start with beating the Pirates? Check. Winning a series against the Guardians? Check. Why don't we focus right now on taking these next 2 against the White Sox, winning that series, take series after series, and then after that, when we're looking like maybe post All-Star break, late July, going into August, we can start talking about 8, 9, 10-game win streaks. I know 2021, what set them apart from their opponents in the AL West was, and this is when the AL West was a lot better in 2021, was when they went on that, 13-game winning streak in June. That was what set them apart and really put them in the driver's seat for the rest of the season to never give up that division lead. They got to go on a streak. I'm not saying 13 games. That's hard to do in any sport whatsoever, but 8, 7 in a row.
Yeah. So hey, real quick, so I don't get a mutiny on my hands from the chat. Frank Reich, I don't know if you know his history here against Houston, right? You remember he was the Bills quarterback.
Unbelievable, Frank Reich. Yeah.
Yes. Oh my God. Everyone's like, please do not mention him. Someone goes, might as well praise Satan.
Yeah, I forgot to recognize my audience here. Yeah.
Yeah, Trev, read the room. Read the room. Michael's even saying Trev's up in Buffalo talking about Frank Reich with the crying emoji.
I mean, you wouldn't if you were up here. You wouldn't talk about Frank Reich up here.
But look right here. He says we still love Trev. So there you go.
Well, I mean, who knows? Maybe he's being sarcastic. It says sarcastic prodigy in his name. So who knows?
Yeah, exactly. Well, hey man, this has been a good show, guys. Trev, thank you for being on. Appreciate you. As always, sitting in for Eric. And look, man, we got 2 more games. The Astros have 2 more games against the White Sox, and hopefully they can come out on top. We definitely would love to see that. It's a lot more entertaining, especially if you're going to the games, to watch a win versus a loss. But hey, folks, have some hope. They've been winning a lot more at home than they have on the road. So let's flip this script. Daikin Park is our home field, not theirs. We don't call our field a name like Rate Field. It's Daikin Park, baby, or the Juice Box. Who cares? Let's just go.
The Ice Box.
The Ice Box. There we go. So for myself, Eric Huysman, and everybody here at Locked On Astros, and even Trev, y'all have a good one. And as always,
go Stros. Take the series, baby.
Let's go.
Another Buffalo legend, Gabriel Moreno, hitting a 3-run bomb against the Mariners just now.